out in the ether for a very long time. And
that means you knew about them.
When Tim and I got together, the internet existed. I didn't go into my relationship with him blind. I am neither naive nor am I complicit.
Everyone thought they knew Melissa Gilbert. To millions, she was the smiling little girl from Little House on the Prairie, growing up in front of America with what looked like the perfect life. But behind that warm smile was a family secret so devastating it would shake everything she believed about herself. For decades, she stayed silent, protecting a story that was never truly hers to hide. When she finally uncovered the truth, it revealed years of heartbreak, unanswered questions, and a painful deception that changed her forever. And what she learned about the man she called her father was only the beginning of a much darker journey. But that heartbreaking discovery was only the beginning. Melissa Gilbert entered the world surrounded by mystery before she could even take her first breath. Adopted just one day after she was born in Los Angeles, she was welcomed into a family already deeply connected to Hollywood. Her adoptive father, actor Paul Gilbert, and her mother, actress Barbara Crane, introduced her to a world where cameras, celebrities, and television were simply everyday life. While most children spent their early years playing in backyards, Melissa was stepping onto commercial sets, unknowingly trading a normal childhood for a life under constant public attention. She had no idea that the greatest mystery wasn't outside her home. It was hiding inside it. Then childhood disappeared almost overnight. Everything changed when Melissa was only 9 years old. Out of hundreds of hopeful young actresses, she landed the role of Laura Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie, instantly becoming one of television's most beloved child stars. Michael Landon personally chose her for the part, sensing a spark that audiences would soon fall in love with. Week after week, millions watched her grow up on screen, believing they were witnessing the life of a cheerful, fearless little girl. Behind the cameras, however, Melissa was juggling school, long filming days, and pressures no child should ever have to face. The fame looked magical from the outside, but the reality was far more complicated. Yet the happiest years on television hid a painful reality. For years, Melissa believed the heartbreaking story her family told her. She was told that her adoptive father had passed away after suffering a stroke, and she accepted that explanation without question. But as she grew older, pieces of the past stopped fitting together. Eventually, she uncovered the truth that had been hidden from her since childhood. Her father had actually taken his own life, and the people closest to her had kept that reality buried for years. The discovery shattered her. She later admitted she struggled to eat, sleep, and process the overwhelming emotions that came with realizing the foundation of her childhood had been built on a painful secret, and keeping that secret created wounds no one could see. As Melissa's television fame continued to soar, life behind closed doors became increasingly complicated. Her parents divorced while she was still young, creating a blended family that looked stable to outsiders but felt confusing from within. At the same time, millions of viewers believed she truly was Laura Ingalls, kind, innocent, and endlessly cheerful. That expectation followed her everywhere, making it harder to discover who Melissa Gilbert really was. She constantly felt trapped between the character America adored and the young woman struggling with hidden pain, family loss, and questions about her own identity. The more successful she became, the more isolated she quietly felt. Then success became another kind of prison. Michael Landon quickly became far more than Melissa Gilbert's co-star. On set, he treated her like family, offering guidance, encouragement, and the kind of support she desperately needed during her childhood. Melissa often looked up to him as the father figure she had lost, and the bond they shared helped shape both her career and her confidence. His advice stayed with her long after the cameras stopped rolling, making his influence impossible to replace. If you're enjoying this story so far, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next untold Hollywood story. But as comforting as Michael's presence was, growing up meant facing a world without that protection. And leaving Walnut Grove would prove far harder than anyone expected. When Little House on the Prairie ended, Melissa believed a new chapter was about to begin. Instead, she found herself trapped by the very role that had made her famous. Directors and audiences still saw Laura Ingalls whenever she walked into a room, making it incredibly difficult to land mature or dramatic roles. Determined to prove she was more than America's sweet prairie girl, she accepted projects that explored darker emotions and more challenging characters. Every performance became an attempt to break free from an image she never asked to carry. But Hollywood wasn't ready to let go of the past, and that struggle slowly began taking a personal toll. Away from the television cameras, Melissa stepped into a completely different Hollywood. She dated well-known stars, attended glamorous parties, and found herself surrounded by celebrities who seemed to have everything. From the outside, it looked like she was living a dream. But behind the flashing cameras, she was quietly battling loneliness and uncertainty. Fame had brought admiration, yet it couldn't answer the questions she carried about who she really was. The little girl America loved had grown into a woman searching for an identity beyond television, and that search became more painful with every passing year. Then the pressure finally became impossible to ignore. As emotional stress continued to build, Melissa turned to unhealthy ways of coping. What started as occasional drinking gradually became a dangerous routine, and prescription medications added to the struggle. She later admitted there were moments when she barely recognized the person she had become. One embarrassing incident forced her to confront reality and accept that something had to change before it was too late. Choosing recovery wasn't easy, but it became one of the bravest decisions of her life. It marked the beginning of rebuilding herself from the inside out. But healing emotionally didn't make her other problems disappear. Even after reclaiming control of her personal life, new challenges kept appearing. Financial troubles made headlines, as reports of unpaid taxes brought unwanted attention, while acting opportunities became less frequent than they once were. Rather than hide from her past, Melissa decided to tell her story on her own terms. Through her memoir, she openly discussed family secrets, addiction, insecurity, and the realities of growing up in Hollywood. Readers were surprised by just how much pain had been hidden behind her familiar smile. But while honesty brought a sense of freedom, Hollywood still expected something she was no longer willing to give, and that impossible expectation would soon change her life forever. As the years passed, Melissa discovered that Hollywood had another set of rules, ones that had nothing to do with talent. The pressure to stay young became relentless, and she found herself chasing an image that never seemed good enough. Cosmetic procedures, including a nose job, breast implants, Botox, and fillers, slowly became part of her life as she tried to meet impossible beauty standards. But instead of feeling more confident, she began to feel like she was losing the person she truly was. Looking in the mirror no longer brought comfort. It brought questions. Melissa later admitted that every attempt to erase time only made her feel further away from herself. Then she made a decision that surprised even her biggest fans. Rather than continue playing Hollywood's endless game, Melissa chose something almost unheard of among longtime celebrities. She walked away. Leaving Los Angeles behind, she settled into a quieter life, where red carpets were replaced by gardens, fresh air, and peaceful mornings. She stopped chasing perfection, embraced her natural gray hair, and left cosmetic treatments behind. It wasn't simply a change of address. It was a complete shift in how she wanted to live. For the first time in decades, she wasn't trying to impress casting directors or magazine covers. She was finally learning to enjoy life on her own terms, and that fresh start opened the door to something even more meaningful. Melissa soon realized that growing older didn't have to be something she feared. Instead of hiding every wrinkle, she began celebrating the experiences they represented. She openly spoke about aging, menopause, and the unrealistic expectations placed on women in entertainment. encouraging others to stop apologizing for getting older. Through her writing and public appearances, she inspired countless fans to embrace authenticity instead of perfection. The same woman who once felt trapped by Hollywood standards had become a voice for self-acceptance and confidence. It was a transformation few people ever expected to see. But while her outlook had changed, her search for lasting happiness wasn't over yet. Melissa's personal life had been filled with hope, heartbreak, and difficult lessons. Her first marriage to actor Beau Brinkman brought the joy of becoming a mother, but it also unfolded during one of the most challenging periods of her life. Emotional struggles, constant pressure, and unhealthy habits eventually pulled the relationship apart. She later found love again with actor Bruce Boxleitner, believing this marriage would finally bring the stability she had been searching for. Yet despite their years together and growing family, old fears and unresolved emotions quietly resurfaced. When the marriage ended, Melissa once again found herself starting over. And just when it seemed love had run out of chances, fate had one more surprise waiting. Everything changed when Melissa met actor Timothy Busfield. Unlike the whirlwind romances of her past, their connection felt calm, genuine, and built on shared life experiences rather than Hollywood glamour. Both had lived through failed marriages, public attention, and personal hardships, giving them an understanding that didn't need many words. Their relationship moved quickly, and before long they were married, beginning what Melissa described as the happiest chapter of her life. Together they built a quieter world far away from the spotlight, focusing on family, creativity, and simple living. For the first time in years, it seemed she had finally found the peace she'd spent a lifetime searching for. But just when everything appeared to be falling into place, an unexpected storm changed everything. Melissa wasn't content with simply leaving Hollywood behind. She wanted to redefine what life after fame could look like. She launched Modern Prairie, a community dedicated to women embracing life after 50, without pretending to be someone they're not. Instead of promoting impossible beauty standards, Melissa encouraged honesty, confidence, and self-acceptance. She spoke openly about menopause, aging, and finding happiness beyond appearances, inspiring thousands who felt invisible in a youth-obsessed culture. Her message was clear: growing older wasn't something to fear. It was something to celebrate. It seemed she had finally discovered the purpose she'd been searching for all along. But just as life appeared to reach its happiest chapter, shocking headlines changed everything. In early 2026, Melissa's peaceful new life was suddenly thrown into turmoil when serious accusations surfaced against her husband, Timothy Busfield. The allegations quickly dominated headlines, leaving longtime fans stunned and divided. While the legal process began unfolding, public opinion moved even faster, with many people forming conclusions almost immediately. After spending years rebuilding her life and reputation, Melissa now faced a completely different kind of storm, one that threatened not only her family, but everything she had worked so hard to create. The quiet life she had carefully built suddenly found itself under an intense spotlight once again, and the choice she made next would become one of the most debated moments of her life. Instead of remaining silent, Melissa chose to stand beside her husband despite the overwhelming public criticism. Appearing in interviews, she firmly stated that she believed in his innocence and described the situation as the most painful experience their family had ever faced. Her unwavering support immediately sparked fierce debate. Some praised her loyalty during an incredibly difficult time, while others questioned whether she was defending him too quickly before the legal process had run its course. No matter which side people supported, one thing became clear. Melissa knew her decision would come with a heavy personal cost, yet she refused to step away from it. As if emotional heartbreak wasn't enough, her body was fighting battles of its own. Long before these public controversies, Melissa had quietly been living with years of chronic pain. Old back injuries, neck problems, and multiple surgeries made even ordinary activities a challenge. During her appearance on Dancing with the Stars, a frightening fall left her with a concussion and worsened existing spinal issues, yet she returned to perform despite the pain. Behind every public smile was someone enduring discomfort that few viewers ever realized. Years later, additional surgeries finally brought some relief, but the physical struggle had already changed the way she viewed health, success, and what truly mattered in life. Then, another lifelong mystery finally received an unexpected answer. For decades, Melissa couldn't explain why certain everyday sounds caused intense emotional distress. Simple noises like chewing, tapping fingers, or repetitive clicking could instantly leave her feeling anxious and overwhelmed. She spent years believing something was simply wrong with her personality. Then, in her 60s, doctors identified the real cause: misophonia, a neurological condition that had affected her since childhood. The diagnosis brought enormous relief, because it finally gave a name to something she had hidden for most of her life. After receiving treatment, Melissa began speaking publicly to raise awareness, hoping others wouldn't spend decades searching for answers the way she had. Looking back, every challenge she'd faced was preparing her for the remarkable life she lives today. She often says that slowing down helped her rediscover who she really was. Away from Hollywood's constant noise, she found joy in ordinary moments, proving that a quiet life can sometimes be the greatest success of all. Her willingness to speak honestly about failure, loss, and healing has inspired countless people facing their own struggles. By sharing the truth instead of protecting a perfect image, Melissa built a legacy rooted in courage rather than celebrity. She also came to understand that millions of people didn't just remember Laura Ingalls. They remembered the hope, kindness, and strength that character represented. Instead of fighting that legacy, Melissa embraced it, realizing it would always be a meaningful part of her story. And accepting that truth changed everything. Today, Melissa says every scar, every wrinkle, and every challenge tells the story of a life fully lived. Rather than hiding from her past, she embraces it with pride, proving that real strength comes from accepting yourself exactly as you are. And that's the lesson fans will never forget. Melissa Gilbert's life reminds us that the happiest faces often hide the deepest struggles. Behind one of television's most beloved child stars was a young girl carrying family secrets, heartbreaking loss, impossible expectations, and years of emotional battles that the public never saw. Yet despite every setback, she refused to let pain become the final chapter of her story. Whether you admire her resilience, her honesty, or her determination to keep rebuilding, one thing is undeniable: her journey is far more powerful than the image Hollywood once created. After hearing everything she's been through, has your opinion of Melissa Gilbert changed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more incredible untold celebrity stories.